The streets are on fire tonight because Tony Rich, yes, the man everyone has been whispering about in connection to Claressa, just attacked Papoose in public. Witnesses say the fight wasn't just heated, it was absolute chaos. We're talking fists flying, bodies crashing into tables, security rushing in too late, and a crowd that could only scream in disbelief as two men with years of tension finally exploded in front of everyone. But here's where it gets even crazier. People close to the situation are saying this wasn't a random altercation at all. Some are calling it a setup. Others are swearing Claressa herself might have had a hand in sparking the confrontation. And with the way the footage is already spreading like wildfire online, one thing is clear. This fight is about to tear apart reputations, marriages, and possibly even friendships we all thought were unshakable. The video that leaked from the scene is shocking enough to silence even the loudest critics. Papoose, known for keeping his cool, was caught in a position no one expected, while Tony Rich, red-faced and furious, screamed words too explosive to repeat here. And when the crowd started chanting Claressa's name in the middle of the brawl, that's when the entire place went from bad to catastrophic. Stay tuned, because what really led to this fight might just be the darkest betrayal we've seen yet. The night began like any other high-profile industry gathering. A swanky lounge in downtown Atlanta was hosting a private event. Though with the amount of paparazzi swarming the doors, nothing about it felt private at all. Inside, stars mingled, drinks flowed, and whispers of new collaborations danced. Across the room, but beneath the glitter and chatter, something darker was brewing. Witnesses say you could almost feel the tension in the air, so everyone knew a storm was coming. They just didn't know when it would strike. And then it happened. Out of nowhere, Tony Rich stormed across the room with fire in his eyes, locking onto Papoose like a bull charging a matador. Papoose, ever composed, was mid-conversation when Tony shoved him hard in the chest, sending glasses flying off the nearby bar. The crowd froze, gasped, then erupted in screams as fists started swinging. Tony wasn't holding back. This wasn't a playful shove. This wasn't industry beef. This was raw rage. And according to multiple onlookers, every word out of Tony's mouth tied back to one name: Claressa. You think you can play games with me? You think I don't know what's going on? He shouted, his voice echoing over the chaos. Papoose tried to hold him off, arms raised defensively. But the aggression was relentless. Now, let's pause here because the details are explosive. Why, Tony? Why now? Insiders are whispering that Tony Rich has been simmering in the shadows for months, watching the headlines swirl around Claressa and Papoose. Remember when rumors broke that Claressa was distancing herself from her fiancé and leaning into something more entangled? That's when Tony's name first got whispered, but nothing concrete ever surfaced. Until tonight, sources say Tony had been drinking. But this wasn't drunken rambling. It was years of bottled-up frustration unleashed in one public showdown. What makes this even more intense is the fact that Tony shouted something that stopped the entire fight for just a moment. One eyewitness swears Tony yelled, "She told me everything," before swinging at Papoose again. The crowd gasped. Phones shot up into the air to record, and suddenly, the internet had its hands on the most chaotic fight clip Love and Hip Hop fans have seen in years. Security rushed in, but not before tables were overturned and at least 3 guests ended up caught in the scuffle. The footage shows women screaming, a man trying to pull Tony back, and Papoose looking stunned, not because of the physical blows, but because of the words. What exactly did Claressa tell Tony? And why would Tony, of all people, feel so emboldened to attack in such a public setting? Some fans online are already speculating that this wasn't about jealousy alone. Screenshots began circulating just hours after the incident. ALLEGEDLY showing Tony and Claressa exchanging late-night messages. While unverified, the tone of those texts suggests more than casual friendship. "You know, I can't keep this quiet. Much longer, one text read, supposedly from Tony's phone. Another, allegedly from Claressa, said, "Let me handle it my way, please." Those texts are even half true. It paints a picture of betrayal and hidden loyalties that could explain why Tony snapped. But here's where it gets even darker. A second clip, filmed from another angle, picked up Papoose shouting back at Tony, his voice breaking, "Don't drag her into this." The crowd went silent for a split second. Why would Papoose say that if Claressa had nothing to do with it? Was he trying to protect her reputation in the middle of the madness? Or was it an unguarded moment that exposed something much bigger? And just when it seemed like the fight might cool down, Tony threw one last punch before security finally pulled him away. Papoose, shaken but standing, wiped his mouth and stared straight into Tony's face. Cameras caught it clearly. His lips moved, and though the audio was drowned out by the crowd. LIP readers online claim he said, "You're not ready for the truth." That phrase alone has set social media ablaze. Within minutes, Twitter or X was flooded with theories. Instagram Lives popped up with eyewitness accounts, and TikTok edits of the fight racked up hundreds of thousands of views. Fans are split. Some believe Tony is exposing a real affair between Claressa and Papoose. Others think Tony is being used as a pawn, manipulated into causing chaos to destroy Papoose's public image once and for all. But here's where things take an even more sinister twist. According to one insider who claims to have been seated just a few feet from the fight, Claressa wasn't even in the building, but the moment her name was screamed, she allegedly called someone in the crowd. That call, the insider says, is being whispered about backstage. She sounded nervous, like she knew this was coming, the source revealed. If that's true, then Claressa may have had advance warning that Tony planned to confront Papoo's. So what's the real story here? Did Claressa set Tony up to finally force Papoose's hand? Or is Tony acting out of desperation, twisting the truth into a public spectacle? All we know for sure is that Papoose's carefully guarded composure cracked tonight. And Tony Rich crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. And yet, as wild as all this is, the most shocking revelation hasn't even surfaced yet. Because according to multiple leaks, there's a second video from the same night that shows something no one expected, something that could shatter the narrative completely and flip the blame in a direction no one saw coming. The fallout from Tony Rich's public attack on Papoose was already spiraling out of control when the second video surfaced online, and this one changed everything. Unlike the shaky crowd shot clips that first went viral, this new footage came from a high-definition security camera inside the lounge. Within hours of the brawl, someone leaked it to a gossip page. And the crystal-clear angle revealed details no one had noticed before. The fight itself looked even more brutal in this angle. Tony's fists connecting, Papoose trying to shield himself, and the crowd scattering like dominoes. But the real shock wasn't the punches that allegedly tied back to Papoose. If true, Tony's attack might have been less about betrayal and more about revenge. He was screaming about respect, the insider said, but what he really wanted was payback. Meanwhile, Claressa's silence is deafening, while fans flooded her social media demanding answers. She's posted nothing but cryptic messages. One photo of her in the gym captions "strength over everything," and another with the words, "The truth don't hide, forever." Those captions ignited even more speculation, with many convinced she's teasing her side of the story. But until she speaks directly, everyone is left piecing the puzzle together from whispers, leaks, and shaky videos. Papoose, on the other hand, tried to downplay the chaos in a brief Instagram Live. Sitting in his car, still visibly shaken, he told fans, "Don't believe everything y'all see. People got their own agendas, and I ain't here to entertain lies. When the time's right, the truth will come out. Until then, stay tuned." His calm delivery didn't satisfy anyone. If anything, it poured gasoline on the fire. Within minutes, the live was clipped, reposted, and dissected. Why didn't he deny Claressa's involvement outright? Why didn't he call Tony a liar? Why did he look like he hadn't slept in days? Fans said his tone was that of a man hiding something. And the comment sections erupted with accusations. And then, just as the internet was reaching peak speculation, another insider leak dropped that turned the narrative upside down. Screenshots appeared on a popular gossip blog allegedly showing private DMs between Claressa and Papoose. In the messages, Claressa warns him about Tony. He's getting reckless. I can't control what he's going to do next. Papoose's alleged reply. Don't let him ruin what we got. Those messages are real. They reveal a twisted triangle. Claressa caught between two men, trying to keep her secrets from colliding while both sides simmer with resentment. And Tony's outburst wasn't random. It was the explosion everyone had been waiting for. But hold on. Just when you think you've wrapped your head around this mess, there's yet another twist. That second leaked video doesn't end where most people stopped watching. After Tony is dragged away by security and the crowd starts to calm, the camera catches a shocking detail. In the corner, a man in a gray hoodie slips out of the lounge unnoticed by most. Several fans online are convinced this man was none other than Claressa's fiancé. If true, that changes everything. Why would he be there and not intervene? Why leave quietly while chaos unfolded? Some fans believe he already knew what was going down, and his silent exit was a way of distancing himself before the scandal blew up. Others think he didn't want to be caught on camera, knowing the narrative would quickly spiral into headlines. He couldn't control. The theories grow darker by the hour. Some say Claressa orchestrated the entire thing as a way to escape both men, to shatter her entanglements publicly so she could walk away free. Others claim Papoose and Tony are being played against each other by outside forces, with Claressa's name being used as bait. But one thing is certain, the chaos is only just beginning. Because late last night, another alleged leak hit the internet, a voice recording said to be between Claressa and Tony just days before the fight. In it, a woman who sounds eerily like Claressa whispers, "If he won't admit it, you'll have to make him." The voice on the other end, believed to be Tony, replies, "Then it's going down." Fans are losing their minds. If authentic, that recording proves the fight was premeditated, not spontaneous. It means Claressa may have set this entire scene in motion, pulling strings behind the curtain while pretending to be innocent. If Papoose knew she was involved, his desperate attempt to keep her name out of Tony's mouth makes perfect sense. But just when you think this story couldn't possibly get messier, whispers are surfacing of a third leak, a clip that hasn't been released yet but is reportedly even more damning. Rumors claim it shows Claressa in a private meeting with someone no one expected. Someone powerful enough to flip this scandal on its head. And that's where we're leaving you hanging, because the identity of that mystery figure could completely rewrite everything we thought we knew. The whispers of a third leak turned out to be real. And when the footage finally hit the internet in the early hours of the morning, it was like throwing gasoline on an already raging fire. Unlike the fight videos and audio leaks we'd seen before, this new clip didn't feature fists, screaming crowds, or chaos. Instead, it showed something far more sinister. Claressa sitting in a dimly lit booth at an upscale restaurant, across from none other than a high-ranking music executive tied closely to both Papoose and Tony Rich. The man's identity was Natas. The man's identity was blurred, but his voice was unmistakable. The conversation was chilling in its calmness. Claressa, sipping a glass of wine, leaned forward and said, "You know, he'll never admit it unless it's forced out." The man across from her replied, "Then let Tony do what he does. Once it's public, there's no going back." The implication hit the internet like a thunderclap. If real, this meant that Claressa hadn't just been caught in the crossfire of two men fighting over her. She had been actively engineering the showdown from the start. She wasn't the victim. She wasn't even the prize. She was the puppeteer, pulling strings that turned a long, simmering tension into a public spectacle. And fans went into meltdown. For days, people had debated whether Claressa was innocent or guilty, but this leak seemed to tip the scales. On Twitter, hashtags like #CLARESSA exposed and hashtag set up Queenshot to the top of trending charts. One fan wrote, "She played them both, like pawns. Tony went to jail, Papoose lost his rep, and she's just sitting back with her glass of wine." Another replied, "Nah, this is deeper. That exec in the clip. He's been controlling this whole scene since day one. It ain't just Claressa. It's an entire setup." And just like that, the spotlight shifted from Papoose and Tony's brawl to the bigger, darker question. Who was really pulling the strings? Was it Claressa acting alone? Or was she part of a bigger machine designed to break down both men's credibility while boosting her own power in the industry? Theories grew even more tangled when insiders began dropping cryptic messages to gossip blogs. One anonymous source, claiming to be a former friend of Claressa, sent in a DM that read, "Y'all don't even know the half of it. That dinner wasn't about Papoose or Tony. It was about money, influence, and shutting certain people up. What happened that night was staged to look chaotic, but it was all part of a plan." Suddenly, the public brawl started looking less like a spontaneous eruption of rage and more like an orchestrated performance with real consequences. Fans began combing through old interviews, Instagram lives, and even background details from past Love and Hip Hop episodes, trying to piece together the breadcrumbs. Every clip where Claressa smirked at the mention of Papoose, every moment Tony hinted at being owed something, every side-eye exchanged at industry events. In hindsight, they all looked like puzzle pieces of a game we hadn't known was being played, but here's where it gets even crazier. The new and power plays. Claressa stands at the center, either as the ultimate villain or the ultimate survivor, depending on who you ask. Tony waits in the wings, ready to burn everything down with one statement. Papoose looks broken but dangerous, like a man who has nothing left to lose. And Remy. Her silence might be the deadliest weapon of all. But make no mistake, this story isn't over. If anything, it's just beginning. Because behind every leaked video, every blurred screenshot, and every cryptic caption, there's one terrifying truth. Someone out there is still holding the biggest receipts. And when they decide to drop them, it won't just be Papoose, Claressa, Tony, or Remy in the crosshairs. It will be the entire foundation of trust in hip-hop relationships as we know them. And when that final leak comes out, the one everyone's whispering about, the one insiders swear will name names and end careers, the chaos we've seen so far will look like child's play compared to the storm that's on the horizon. And here we are, standing at the edge of what could be the biggest implosion hip-hop has seen in years. Tony Rich in jail, Papoose cornered, Claressa accused of being the puppet master. And Remy's eerie silence hanging over it all, like a storm cloud ready to burst. But if there's one thing we've learned from this saga, it's that nothing is ever as it seems, and the next move could rewrite everything we think we know. That's why I need you right here with me for every twist, every leaked video, and every shocking betrayal that's still to come. Smash that like button right now if you've been following this madness. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Claressa really set this entire thing up from the beginning? Or is she just another pawn in a much bigger game, run by unseen hands? Your opinion matters, because trust me, the people at the center of this chaos are watching. And if you're not subscribed already, you're going to miss the next explosion. And I mean that literally. With insiders hinting that Tony Rich is preparing a Talal statement and rumors swirling of a final leak that could destroy careers. This is the moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications, because the fight we saw in public was only the opening act. The real storm hasn't even hit yet.